have that I hope we are finally going to settle today. Can we please get into this?
We're just warming up.
Yes. The New England Patriots engineered the greatest comeback, as you know, in Super Bowl history, and it was also the largest comeback of Tom Brady's career. Brady is the first starting quarterback and just the second player ever, that would be Charles Haley, to win 5 Super Bowls. Here are Brady's teammates on his performance.
He's our leader. He's so competitive. We rally behind him. He's the best. Tom Brady.
He's not only the greatest right now, I think he'll be the greatest to go down.
He's the greatest of all time.
We have one of the best quarterbacks ever play the game.
The guy's the greatest of all time, man.
He's the Michael Jordan of football.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah, Brady's the best ever, hands down. Woo!
Can we finally put this to rest, Max Kellerman? Does this win make Brady the greatest of all time?
No, he already was the greatest of all time, as I've been sitting here and telling everybody. Tom Brady is, look, there are arguments in sports, Montana or Marino. Everyone knew Marino was better, but Montana had the intangibles. In other words, he's on a better team and he's a clutch player. Okay, get it. You look at Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Oh, Brady gave you the feeling he was better because he's on a better team and he's clutch, and Peyton wasn't, but Peyton had better numbers. Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod had the numbers, but Jeter had the World Series, was on a better team, also gave you the impression he's clutch. The thing about Tom Brady in recent years is now he is Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, and A-Rod, but with, you know, in terms of all those numbers, but he's clutch and wins, like Jeter and Tom Brady and Joe Montana. He has the numbers to back it up, and he has the championship. He was already the greatest of all time when this happened. What this does is put distance between him and everybody else, increases the distance, and adds
including Aaron Rodgers' distance.
Well,
yes,
well, his resume.
He's the Michael Jordan of football.
No, he's not the Michael Jordan of football, because Mike Jordan, that's a different level. But no, he's not better than Aaron Rodgers, but he has the resume that you can't dispute. He's on a greater team with a much better coach and many more career accomplishments. Is he actually better if you could choose either quarterback? No, but we'll save that for later in the show. The point is, he had already established his legacy as the greatest quarterback ever. This adds to it because this is probably the most incredible part of his legend, kind of like LeBron James last year in the finals, bringing them back from down 3-1. Already the greatest of all time. Stephen A., you had Joe Montana ahead of him.
I was getting ready to go there. I've always had Joe Montana ahead of him.
But
I always have. Not today.
There you go. There you go.
He proved you.
Not today. Listen, despite the greatness of Joe Montana throughout the years, what resonated with me was that drive in '88 against Cincinnati when he hooked up and finished the deal with that 10-yard pass to John Taylor after driving them about 90 yards. You hear the stories about him seeing comedian John Candy in the stands and coming in the huddle and being so cool, completely unfazed and not worried, and driving them downfield and doing that stuff. Although I've seen Tom Brady do it before, because after all, yesterday was the 51st time he's had a comeback victory in his career, I've never seen anything like this. What I saw last night may be the greatest performance I've ever seen in the championship game, in the Super Bowl. I'll go to NFL because I got to think a little bit harder about some NFL encounters and things, NBA encounters rather than things that I've seen. But this is the greatest on a football field that I've ever seen. I thought that Tom Brady was absolutely sensational on so many ways. The passes that he was making when it counted, the accuracy, the poise, everything that you want from your leader. He delivered the goods. Now, he was already considered one of the great ones. After what I saw yesterday, that was a Montana moment that, to me, I had never gotten from Brady. I saw Brady lose an AFC championship game to Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. I saw him lose an AFC championship game against Denver. I saw him not close the deal against the Giants. One time or another, whether it's because of a sack or anything like that, or Eli Manning coming to the rescue with David Tyree or the Mario Manningham hookup. I saw all of these things. I was waiting for what I believed was a Joe Montana moment from Tom Brady to eclipse him over Joe Montana. This was it. I concede. I have nothing to say. It's the greatest performance I've ever seen on a football field.
I've said it for the last 2 weeks that he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I've said this. He didn't have to win the game, or even if he lost the game. And I said this because over the history of his career, he has done nothing but win football games. And as a quarterback in the NFL, you're not measured by the numbers that you put up, because a lot of numbers that some quarterbacks have could be you could be getting blown out by 30, 40 points, and you're still racking up numbers. But it's the consistency with winning. Making it to the AFC Championship 11 times and going to the Super Bowl 7 out of those 11 times. Winning 5 Super Bowl championships. I don't care if you average 195 passing yards a game. You're still showing that you're a winning quarterback. And for Tom Brady, besides Randy Moss, can you name a Hall of Fame wide receiver or tight end that he's played with? So when you compare him to the Joe Montanas, when you compare him to the Peyton Mannings, when you compare him to guys who have been up at the upper echelon, who have played with Hall of Fame wide receivers, running backs, or tight ends, Tom Brady will go.
Let's give Gronk credit, too.
Well, Gronk, to me, Gronk might not play more than 3 or 4 more years because of his injuries. That's a serious injury. So now we're questioning if Gronk really is a Hall of Famer. He may get in, but it won't be the first or second ballot type of Hall of Fame. For Tom Brady, it says a lot because, to me, he is the Michael Jordan of football. Now, we talk about Aaron Rodgers and his ability of what he can do, but when you have a guy who I would say probably less athletic than a lot of quarterbacks that have played, but still have the mentality of knowing what to do with the right situation and elevating the players around him. Julian Edelman was a quarterback in college. You know, from Chris Hogan was a lacrosse player at Monmouth. You go all the way to Mitchell. Nobody even talk about wide receiver Mitchell. Take Gronk out of it. Martellus Bennett was a backup tight end until Gronk got hurt. Now all of a sudden it became.
But Bennett was a good player.
But see, this is what I'm saying. But
How
it became.
about he did it without Gronk?
Well, see, and that's the whole thing. So when you talk about Tom Brady and the consistency that he's had throughout his career, and I compare him to Michael Jordan, and he's not only the greatest quarterback that have played in the NFL, he may be arguably the greatest player because quarterbacks get measured a little bit differently. And I say that because last night showed me something different where it became a Michael Jordan moment in Utah, hitting that game winner, holding it up, holding it up, and I'm a Bulls fan, holding his hand up to follow through to let everybody know where I stand as far as history is concerned. That last night showed where Tom Brady was, with they leading them down for the championship for the win. That right there just let everybody know how great Tom Brady is, and it was a mic drop moment where he can retire at this point, and we would love him for the rest of his life.
What you guys are both talking about is the narrative-changing nature of the moment. For you, it's having that Montana moment where you drive to win the whole thing. For you, it's letting everyone know that you're the greatest of all time, like a Michael Jordan moment, Joe Montana moment. It's interesting to me because I agree it was narrative changing, which although he's already the greatest ever, it elevates him in the sense that LeBron, you think about what he just did with Cleveland. Had they lost that series, people would have looked and said, you won 2. One of them was because Ray Allen hit a 3. Really, like, you take that away, you're 1 shot away from winning 1 championship. Tough to talk about him with Jordan or over Kobe or guys like that. Here with Tom Brady, imagine if they lose this game, even with a great comeback and they fall just short. He had to win the game. He had to make all the plays. If you fall just short, people look and go, the last 4 Super Bowls you were in. You lost 2 to the Giants. You won 1 against Seattle because of the worst play call in history, according to many, including Stephen A. Smith. And then you just lost to Atlanta. All of a sudden, the entire narrative about him being the greatest changes, and there's plenty of competition. But because he actually won the game, there's no argument today.
Well, here's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I'll close it out this way. You bring up LeBron James. As far as I'm concerned, Warriors are 2-time champions if Draymond Green doesn't get suspended. It's just that simple to me. You know, that's not a moment that you can look at with Tom Brady. When we look at Jordan, that moment against Utah, whatever, but he was already a 5-time champion, and now he had won the 6 and closed the deal, and plus the Bulls were favored in that game. Tom Brady was down 28-3. It is the greatest comeback in the history of the Super Bowl. Right. Exercised against a team that everybody and their mother looked at and said, they're more talented.
Right.
On offense.
They're big. I'm talking about they're bigger, they're stronger, they were vicious, they were getting at them. Just from an athletic perspective, they were just those dogs. They had that in them. Now, it's one thing to look at it from its standpoint and say, all right, the Patriots should beat them going into the game. But once you watch the first 2.5 quarters,
you thought the game was over.
And you saw it, it was like, my God, they're just better. And then here comes Brady.
Yeah. And the defense and special teams.
But you got to remember,
and a lot of mistakes by the Falcons.
The 2 games that they lost against the Giants, he was winning.
That's right.
Up until 2 minutes.
That's right.
All right, that's got to be the last word.